This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus and The Menace.
And on this episode of episode 65, we'll be doing our pregame warm-ups. I will be talking about my visit of hanging out with Godzilla and many other things in Japan, where I was for a few weeks. Then we'll talk about the starting lineup from the headlines from the past couple weeks. Then we'll go into our classic Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, the ugly.
The bad, the ugly.
And then we'll do our high heat. I'm already feeling the heat. And then our color commentary. And then obviously our stud and dud of the week, or weeks, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and we were going to have a little bit of primetime teaser at this point, but because we have been so dissatisfied lately with what we have been wanting to bring to you guys, or with the product that we want to bring, not in the sense of this podcast or the primetime games that we had on MLB The Show 23, but we have just been so dissatisfied right now with what MLB The Show 23 is doing that we were going to do a March to October showdown of who could get through this in the least amount of seasons. We are going to wait until football season for some other things. Nothing confirmed yet as to whether or not I am going to get Madden, and that's just because I have some stuff coming up within the next month or so involving a road trip on my end. As far as we know, no episodes should be missed. No episode should be missed, especially if Ruckus decides to have it. We had a little bit of a delayed start due to Ruckus returning from Japan, and we may end up having a little bit of a delay in mid-September around week 2 of the NFL season probably due to Nashville and having a long drive back, but I will not know more until closer time. Yeah, so for me, Nashville on the way, that'll be that's room for another little small piece. But other than that, I mean, new jobs, been picking up stuff with the new job, preparing for football season, some travel, D&D, Magic the Gathering, TV movies, messing around, like very, very little video game messing around, and that's just kind of been because the market of what I want to play and the market of what I would love to stay home and do has just been a little lackluster. I've been kind of having more things going on out of the house, spending more time outside of the confines of home. So that has kind of left the console to kind of just be there. Or if I am in the confines of home, I am spending more time watching something with my wife. The Lincoln Lawyer has been one that we went through both seasons of that. We're still doing Claim to Fame. We're still picking up on a couple of other things that we've been doing along the way. Movies-wise, we saw The Haunted Mansion, which I think I last mentioned before Ruckus went to the Land of the Rising Sun. So there's been a little bit of everything.
That's for sure. Yeah, as you guys probably realize, because usually we have these episodes up on Tuesdays and we record on Mondays, I have been very sleepy, and it shows because whenever you get to Japan, it's like, or not get to Japan, the flight over was like 10 hours there and back. So I'll start us off. With the journey here in a second. My prompter says I just got back from the USA and I'm trying to get back on normal sleep, but I've been playing a lot of Ratchet
jet lag ain't no joke.
Yeah, and like I feel like I don't even know the definition of jet lag. I'm just I like looked at it and I looked at the symptoms and it's like dizziness, fatigue, and whatever. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
And this is kind of like an old school time of recording for us, just simply because we are recording now on a Wednesday night, on kind of in theory here, a Wednesday night, which was when we started this. So, taking it back to the OG days.
You make it sound like it happened 10 years ago.
I mean, granted that we're a young podcast, it's still 65 episodes in, but I mean, still, actually, I think for the better part of it, I don't think we moved into the Mondays realm until after, I think it was after episode 50 or something like that, or around, or maybe just before episode 50. Actually, it might have been just, actually, I think episode 50 was kind of just before that. So really, the second 50 was kind of when we started moving things to Tuesdays for release.
Yeah. Yeah, other than that, I've been playing a lot of the new Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart PC port that came out late July, like a couple days before I actually went to fly over to Japan. I tried it on my Steam Deck. It runs okay, but you gotta do a lot of tweaking if you want it to run well enough for your liking. But
that game is beautiful.
Dude, it's amazing on PC. I have it mostly maxed out. I don't have ray tracing enabled because I like my high FPS. And when I tried enabling it on my nice graphics card, it like took a huge dip in performance, like about 30 FPS or lower. And I was just like,
on the actually on the PS5, it had a beautiful middle ground that you could use.
I like my over 60 FPS mostly if I can help it.
Oh yeah, it still held, like on the PS5. I don't even think I was using this new monitor I have. I was actually using my old one, and it was still running like even a 1080p 60 FPS with ray tracing just fine, because my old monitor has a 144 hertz refresh rate, so it was kind of holding its own just fine.
Yeah, and I mainly play games at 4K nowadays. I have a monitor that's 4K 144 hertz, and that game looks amazing with all that.
I think I have a 1440p 165.
I have a monitor. I ran 1440p for a while and then went to 4K recently. So 1440p is a good sweet spot between 1080 and 4K.
Honestly, everything going up to 4K, I can understand 4K being an amazing thing for movies and television and sports. Is it bad that I kind of feel like 1440p is kind of that perfect sweet spot for video games, that it kind of just does not need to advance beyond that? because I don't think people can invent the stuff that pushes it to those higher tech levels for movies and television fast enough.
I think it just comes down to how you implement it too, because like not everything is going to be pushed to that. Like I use deep learning super sampling for NVIDIA's stuff, and they generate more FPS through AI and sub super sampling and all that fancy word buzz to get higher frame rates and 4K and whatnot. And they like downscale the image and then upscale it a little bit, but like you still get more performance because it's taking that image that's lower pixel rate, like down to 720p, and then upscales it back up to like 1440p or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, I see what
that.
your point
there's
is.
that going on. But yeah, that technology, but even that technology can be so expensive that I don't think I don't know if enough has been done to have that side of technology become become affordable to the standard human consumer.
Yeah. I'm more of a niche kind of. I'm one of the PC enthusiasts.
Oh, I will say there's definitely it's not as easy, like it's easier to make more money when you're older, but at the same time, that more money, especially once you kind of hit the stage of life I am, it's like that money starts to go away a little little faster and faster.
Yeah.
With all the different other things that you need rather than I'll just get what I want. That's why I've shifted to budget commander cards. Yep, I just ended up like completing a deck that the last 10 cards I needed, I only spent $6. So
Not bad. And then when I got back home from the US, I also got this automatic material system from my Bamboo Labs 3D printer. It's freaking amazing. I have printed so many Kinsey Chiefs arrowheads on it so far to experiment with how I want the filaments to change color. So what the AMS does is you can use it to like to print up to 4 colors at once, or you could do it to where you could have it run double of the same color in case like one filament spool runs out and then you want it to continue to the other spool, stuff like that, or other purposes. But I have it running 4 different colors. I have this nice rose gold filament. I think of it like the rose gold like backplate on like an iPhone look. And then I have red filament, white filament, and black, so I could do like the classic arrowhead, Chiefs arrowhead. I've also done a very beautiful rose gold Ninetales, where it's black for like the main body of Ninetales, and then his tails in the back are like rose gold, and it looks pretty darn awesome. I've also just been I also invested in a second AMS so that I can run 8 colors at once on the printer. It's pretty awesome. It's opened up a lot more possibilities for me to like tinker more with 3D printing, and I'm having a blast with it. All right. So now that we've talked about that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Japan. So grab some popcorn if you haven't already. Listen in. It's gonna be a long one. So let's start at the beginning. So what happened? So I got up around 4 a.m. to wake up to go to the airport to MCI at the beautiful new Kansas City Metro airport. I went there earlier this year for Disney World, like in March. So like I already kind of knew how it was gonna go and whatnot. And it's a beautiful airport. Went from there to Seattle, Tacoma, and Seattle, Tacoma seemed like they were doing a lot of renovations with it, and there were still some shops and whatnot, but it felt like everything was a long walk, like as it probably would be anyways. And then from Seattle, I went to Tokyo and Haneda Airport. That was about a 2 hour, or not 2 hour, 10 hour and a half flight there. And so I ended up getting to Tokyo about, I guess, 2 p.m. on a Saturday. And then from there, I took a flight from Tokyo to Osaka. So that was an interesting one. Turns out Haneda Airport has 3 terminals. So Terminal 3 is where Delta goes out and whatnot, and same with United and those other American airlines and stuff like that. And then you have Terminal 1 and 2, which is mainly like the domestic stuff for Tokyo and Japan and whatnot. So I flew ANA for the Tokyo to Osaka flight. Felt like that was alright. But the problem was when I got to Osaka, I went to go claim my bags, and my bags were stuck in customs for half the trip.
Oh wow!
So I was just like, so I don't know. I don't know why they got them stuck, but what I ended up pretty much all I had was mostly clothes. I did 3D print a headset holder for my friend, but that was it. Like I didn't have anything that was like sharp or suspicious in there, I don't think. Maybe they thought the headset holder was suspicious. I don't know, but I had a lot of clothes. And I also planned to wear my Nike City Connect Royals jersey to the Tokyo Dome, but I couldn't do that because the people in Tokyo and customs were like, no, we can't allow you to do that. So eventually we did send them a copy of my passport and whatnot to get the actual luggage sent over to my friend's house, because he lives in Osaka through the JET program. So we eventually got that after we got back from Tokyo. So in the few days I was in Osaka before we went to Tokyo on a bullet train, I was pretty much just like trying to find new clothes on the spot. So there was a Japanese Walmart called Don Quixote. It's literally just like I don't remember, I think it's like a 2-story building, and there's like stairs to it, and it's like a penguin. The mascot's like a penguin or a platypus or something like that, and it's really cute. Like to get up the stairs, there was like little like feet that were going up, like penguin feet, and it was going up the stairs. Pretty cute. Everything as far as the price is cheaper in USD compared to yen, because yen is so much it's worth so much less than the US dollar. So it felt like I was getting 20% off of pretty much everything I bought, no matter if it was clothes or not. And I bought some cool t-shirts. I found this PlayStation shirt that has like PlayStation on the front and letters, and then the PlayStation logo on the back. I thought that was cool. Got some shorts and stuff too, just all the necessities I would need.
Yeah, the necessities you needed. Yep.
I was trying not to complain, and in my mind I was just trying to like pretend like I didn't lose all my luggage. So I was just like, all right, survival mode, let's do this. Like, let's enjoy this as much as I can. And then we went to Tokyo on a bullet train. The bullet train, I was picturing something like fancier, like on the movie with Brad Pitt and like a few other people that I can't remember their names.
Yeah.
And I pictured it being more fancy, like where you're like sitting like in front of your friends or whatnot. But no, it feels more like an airplane where it's like you have the seats just going straight forward, and then the compared to like a normal train, I would say it's definitely a lot faster because it's in the name, bullet train. It goes fast. There are some stops still that you had to go through, but it's still not that bad.
Like a metro, pretty much.
Yeah. So like, I did have a few times where I don't know if it was just the altitude or if it was just the speed of which the train was going through into tunnels where my ears would pop from time to time, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like if I were going up in the air like in an airplane where it would like my ears would pop, and then if I went down steadily then they would hurt.
Yeah.
I hate that. So when we got to Tokyo, it like rained a little bit on our way there, and it was a lot cooler than it was like the past few days we were in Osaka. I think it was like they made it on the weather app. It kept on telling me that it was like 95, but it feels like 108, and I'm just like, good lord. It was 60% humidity. I was like, God damn it.
I mean, the island, like just island temperature and being on a coastline, humidity skyrockets. I mean, I remembered that from Boston. It'd be like 75, but yet the humidity makes it feel like I was back home in West Virginia, like 90s with a freaking high humidity.
Needless to say, I was sweating like a dog, and it wasn't fun for the first couple of days because like I was not used to the heat, and the first day I kind of got sick, but dude, Tokyo was interesting. It felt like a more interconnected city compared to like if you went to like Chicago or New York where there's like a lot more people walking around. Tokyo had more people walking around if you went to like the shopping areas, like Akihabara was where I went for a maid cafe, and they had like other things too. Like the maid cafe was literally just girls wearing like the maid outfits, and they would like serve you food. And yeah, it's one of those things where if you're first visiting Japan, that it's like one of those, oh, you gotta try this kind of things. I also went to the Monster Hunter Cafe and Kirby Cafe and whatnot. Saw the Sky Tree because the Kirby Cafe is like right next to the Sky Tree. And then
man,
the Monster Hunter Cafe was interesting. They had non-alcoholic versions of their drinks that were themed on the monsters that you would hunt in the game.
Yep.
And then they had alcoholic versions of it. I started with a large beer, which was just literally a frosted mug of whatever Japanese beer they had. I think I tried like 3 different beers. There was a Yabisu, which was the worst tasting of the whole bunch of lager beer. Premium malt I had on the plane ride that was pretty good. It was like a Miller Lite that they strapped a Japanese logo to and called it a day. And then Kirin was more of just like a standard lager. It wasn't too bad. But yeah, they had like the Monster Hunter Cafe had like the really large mug, and then I tried a different drink that had like ginger ale in it. That was pretty good. And then they had like the large meat thing, or the like the I'm blanking on the name of how they say it in Monster Hunter game, but like the one where it's like the big old beef bone, or like the bone-in beef.
Oh yeah.
They like do it kind of like they do in the game. And then I had some type of steak that was like chopped, and the portions were really small in Japan. Literally, I went to Universal Studios Japan for my last day on my birthday, August 11th, and they had drink sizes for small, which small is like tiny. Like if you think small in the States is small, go to Japan. For the love of God, experience that in Japan. And then regular is literally like the small in the States, and then large is like, okay, we're getting back to regular territory here in the States, and then super large is literally like, okay, well, that's technically a large in the States, so
Yeah.
Yeah, the sizes were weird. I never thought in my time in this life that I would try a garlic shrimp pizza. It sounded gross, but it was actually pretty good. You I feel
Doesn't
like
sound horrible.
I feel like if I was gonna try something with like seafood on it, I would have probably done like the anchovy pizzas, like from like the classics or whatever, where it's like, I guess like on TV and stuff, to be like, oh, here's like a pizza with anchovies on it, and then everybody would be like, gross. But
Well, shrimp it. I don't know. As long as it was like broiled or grilled, wouldn't be horrible on a pizza. I think fried shrimp on a pizza doesn't work.
it was mainly just garlic grilled shrimp, and it was good. They even had like a
Yeah.
lemon on one of the slices that I took off, but that lemon zest tasted good.
Yeah.
And then at McDonald's, they don't have quarter pounders. They have double cheeseburgers, but the double cheeseburger I had just didn't taste like it would in the States. It was weird. It felt like I was taking a bite out of like a Jimmy Dean sausage patty. And also beef is just like not very common in Japan because obviously they don't have cows really anywhere. And then at McDonald's, instead of just a fillet of fish, because that's boring, we had to up the ante. We have a fillet of shrimp as well. So like literally it's just a fillet filled with shrimp in it, and I didn't try it, but I just saw it on the menu and I was like, what the hell?
Well, it's a little different when you're in island nation.
I mean, I remember when I was in Hawaii and there was a Burger King like across the street from our hotel. They literally mostly had Spam like sandwiches, and it was hilarious. It was like, "Oh, you want a sandwich of Spam? Well, we got a sandwich of Spam, or you could go for the normal Whopper. But we also have Spam," and I'm just like, "Ew, Spam, gross, canned ham." But yeah, like there were some like oddities at KFC. They, instead of like the normal biscuits, they have like biscuits with like holes in the middle, like a donut, which I thought was kind of hilarious. At when I went to the Tokyo Dome, this really caught me off guard a little bit. They had someone in the stands, so like normally whenever you go to like a sports game in the States, if you're getting like a beer or something from like a vendor that like walks around with their big ol' like frozen bag or whatever they got, it's usually like, if it's like a beer, they're like, okay, here's like a big tall boy can, and then they open it for you and whatnot. At Tokyo Dome, they literally have people with like mini kegs on a backpack, and they're just like pouring draft beer right at your seat. Or you could have the lucky chance of getting a mixed cocktail made right in front of you at your seat, which doesn't happen in the States. Like most of the time that stuff is pre-mixed, and then they're just like, here you go, it's this much, all right, here you go, have fun. Like, no,
The only time you're getting a mixed drink made is at a bar.
Yeah, even then, like I was just like, wait, that just happened? Oh crap. And the sales are still going on. Like, they didn't stop after the seventh inning like they do in the States. I mean, nowadays they sell it like clear after the seventh inning because of the time constraints and stuff like that happened.
Yeah.
But in Japan, they don't have that time clock, so like they still sell like liquor and whatnot, but like people are also able to like drink in public too in Japan. Like I'm guilty of it. I did it a couple of times because I was like this feels like liberating in a sense. But there's um a more openness to alcoholism in Japan compared to the States, where like you can obviously be free with it. But yeah, the Tokyo Dome was a very cool experience. It reminded me of the World Baseball Classic a little bit because like whenever they were in like Tokyo or whatever and like the teams were like facing each other, they had like the people in the outfield um playing their instruments, like rooting their teams on. And this was going on for pretty much most of the game for the Swallows and the Tokyo Giants. And it was a lot of fun just seeing all that celebration, like even, and there wasn't like so much of a rivalry where like stereotype where like the teams would like boo each other or whatever. It was more of like a friendly atmosphere, like more of like a neutral atmosphere. There was no like hatred towards another team or whatnot, like manufactured, like they would be like if you went to a home game and then the road team was being announced, then everybody'd be like boo or this or that. But I mean, the Tokyo Giants were the home team, so like they still got like some home team treatment, but it wasn't like as dramatic as it would be. And then to fast forward a little bit, we stayed in a hostel for the Tokyo part of the trip, and that was interesting being in like the wooden pods. Like it wasn't like the ones you would see on like the internet where it was like, oh, you're like in this thing that looks like a tanning bed or whatever.
Yeah.
That you'd sleep in. It was more so you're just in like a wooden like crate that you were like sleeping in. It was actually kind of interesting. I didn't have any issues with it. Like I didn't wake up in the middle of the night because people were like, I guess like being loud or whatever. But I did go like to the downstairs bar a couple times to hang out with people and like grab a drink or whatever. And most of the people staying there were foreigners. I don't think I saw any like actual like locals go in there, but
Yeah.
I met a couple New Zealanders in there. I met a dude from California that sounded like Matthew McConaughey when he spoke. Like I dead ass told this person like, "Hey, has anybody told you that you sound like Matthew McConaughey?" And he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Right on." It was great.
All right.
Yeah, and then there was one night apparently where they got like crazy in the bar area, but I'm gonna like stop it there. But yeah, as far as everything else in Tokyo, instead of Disney Sea, we went to a amusement park that was indoors called Joyopolis. That was a lot of fun and interesting. They had a rhythm game slash Sonic the Hedgehog themed roller coaster that was pretty cool. Um, they had a bunch of other attractions like House of the Dead, where that's like an interactive game. And then they had Attack on Titan, the attraction where you like walked through a simulation of what Attack on Titan is. There was a mythical horror show where it's like urban legends of Japanese myths and whatnot, and they like come to life, and that was pretty interesting. It was like a horror based tiki room from like that
Yeah.
from Disney World, but it wasn't
Yeah.
that bad. I mean, if you're a little kid and you watch that, you'd probably be having nightmares for a little while, but I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it is what it is. They had Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney as well, which I thought was cool. It was like you had like 3 little puzzles that you could do, and the cover arts were pretty cool. And yeah, and then but the Akihabara part of it was pretty interesting, seeing all the shops and seeing how many like levels of floors there are just for like shops and stuff, and like just seeing how like compact everything is. Like it's ridiculously compact. Um Seeing like the sights and sounds of the city was interesting too for both Tokyo and Osaka. Um Osaka has more locals than foreigners, because Tokyo is more of like a touristy spot, whereas Osaka is more locals. But yeah,
Yeah.
so English is spoken a lot better in Tokyo than it is in Osaka.
Yeah, in Osaka, yep.
Japan is one of the lowest at fluencies of English when it comes to speaking English or whatever, compared to other countries, from what I heard from the grapevine. And then what else? I went to Kyoto for one of the days and saw some monkeys in a mountain. That was pretty cool. And then got to see like that different aesthetic of like the tropical misty areas of Japan.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, there was a cool amusement park that was hidden somewhere like an hour or two from Osaka, and that's where I met Godzilla. As there was a Godzilla attraction where you could literally zip line into Godzilla's mouth or to the outside corner of where his scaly body is, and it's pretty cool. They had that. They had a museum, and they also had an interactive game where you shoot like targets on Godzilla's like side to take him down more, I guess. And then there was like other cool things like Dragon Quest and whatnot.
Oh yeah, so I mean, you basically have like the myths of Godzilla. You have a lot of theming around video games, a lot of theming around anime, because Japan is a hub.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and then yeah, there was like a bunch of other stuff, but it was interesting seeing the amusement side of it, where like you had to pay per ride rather than like paying a one-time fee and then riding the rides as much as you want, like you would in Universal Studios or Disney World or something like that.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, because you see that sometimes throughout different activities in the city as well.
Yeah. And then last but not least, I did airsoft, and that was a lot of fun. I found a John Wick airsoft pistol that I, to this day, think is like the coolest thing ever, because I'm a big John Wick fan. So they have like the Continental coins that come with it, a pencil that literally says a bleeping pencil. I'll let you fill in the blanks for that.
Yeah.
And then they came with like a little D&D style baggie, I guess you could say. Like it's like a nice little baggie, and then it comes with like a notepad, and they sell a hair comb separately that looks like a switchblade, but you can't they can't sell it in Japan with the gun because it's like a weapon. People think it's like a weapon or something,
Yeah.
or whatnot. But yeah, and then when I did shoot it at the shooting range, they had one that was on the second or third floor of a coffee shop that I thought was kind of cool. But the ethics of mixing alcohol with shooting is probably not the best combination, but there is such a thing as that. And I thought that was odd, but it was only a one lane thing, but it was cool. The airsoft that I did, though, with my buddies in Osaka was a blast. It was an indoor arena. They had many game modes. They even had a zombies mode where they had two people play as zombies, and you just had to survive for as long as you could in a time limit. So, like 5 minutes, I believe. And it was fun. But yeah, my favorite thing is probably either the airsoft or Universal Studios, mainly because Universal Studios at night on in Super Mario Land was pretty cool. Doing Mario Kart was interesting. It's augmented reality, so you're like doing like the little Mario Kart areas and whatnot, and then they have like Rainbow Road and whatnot, and it is cool. Um, that and then obviously the Tokyo Dome was a good experience too. See I didn't think I would see Domingo Santana live playing for the Tokyo Swallows. He ended up getting a double that ended up helping them score the only run of the game, but I was just like, wait, that says Santana on his on the back of his jersey. And then I asked my friend, I was like, hey, what does that say in Japanese? And he says, that says Santana. And I was like, wow, well, the only other player that I know of that isn't on a current active MLB roster right now is Domingo Santana. And I was like on the money somehow. I don't know how I managed, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I was just like, damn, okay. I like guessed that right off. But yeah, he hit a double and then got a pitch runned on at second, and then they ended up scoring that same inning. And then the next half inning came around, and the Tokyo Giants were coming up, and they were like hyping up the inning, like, oh, we're gonna like totally score this inning, right? That same inning, 1-2-3, just everyone was out, and then it was just silent for like a good little bit. It was so awkward.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, okay.
And to think, that Tokyo Dome is also the same arena that in January holds New Japan Pro Wrestling's biggest event in Wrestle Kingdom. In other words, you were in the same area that back in January, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay were competing in. So you've fared better than I have.
Dude, you know what's crazy? You know it's the AC in Tokyo was actually AC compared to Osaka. When it was hot as balls, I should say. Osaka's like train systems said they had mild air conditioning. I don't think their definition of mild is the same definition as mine, where it's like it's either you feel some cool air or you don't. In Tokyo, it was like more like the standard that I usually put on air conditioning, where it was nice and cool. And then Tokyo Dome was like so cooling. I was just like, okay, I just want to chill at my seat and then just bask in this AC, as this will probably be the best AC I get. Like the whole trip. And then like what else? Yeah, the food was delicious too. I had crab on a stick at one point in Kyoto. The sushi was amazing. I had fried puffer fish. It was like shrimp but with the consistency of tuna. I thought it was delicious. It's fatal if prepared wrong, by the way. And one person every year dies because they try to prepare it themselves. So take that for what you will. If you just go to a restaurant that does it and knows how to not kill people with it, then you're pretty safe. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Ate some ramen, had some curry with some pork cutlets and some chicken cutlets. Pretty good stuff. And overall, I had a good time. It was just very hot at some points, and some days, or most of the time, I would just drink Pocari Sweat, which is just Japanese Gatorade, and that would pretty much like solve the hydration issues. It is either that or water, mostly. There were times where I found Japanese Dr. Pepper, which is weird, because they have it under the Coke name, but in the States, it's like under its own name, and I'm just like, what the hell? I mean, it tastes about the same as Dr. Pepper in the States, but I was just like, what? It was more readily available in Tokyo than it was in Osaka, too. I thought that was interesting. But other than that, that was my that was my show and tell of me going to Land of the Rising Sun. I hope you enjoyed listening to it.
Yep. And now we go right into what we do best, the sports. And the headlines from the last couple of weeks, I'm going to start with Tottenham Hotspur's Harry Kane, an Englishman, will be transferring to Bayern Munich. So he'll be going from one of London's notable clubs, and he's kind of been mostly teetering around like the top area of the Prem, to now going to probably one of the best teams in Germany. So we'll see how Mr. Kane will adjust to the Bundesliga. Shohei Ohtani was the first to 40 home runs, but Matt Olson is the new home run leader.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yep.
When I was in Japan during that, talking about him being the first of 40 homers on the train, they had a news thing that was showing Shohei on it in his Angels uniform. I thought that was pretty cool. They also showed Yu Darvish as well, as on advertisements.
That does not surprise me at all.
Anyways, go ahead.
I mean, and there were a whole bunch of notable deals that came around in the trade deadline. Max Scherzer to Texas,
where it all began.
Well, I don't even know if actually Scherzer was a Diamondback. I think Scherzer started out as a Diamondback, actually.
I think what I meant to say was where he started in the minors is was in Texas, I believe, from what I read somewhere. But I might be wrong.
Yeah, but there were a lot of... I know we're 2 weeks removed from the trade deadline, and it's hard to remember every single deal that happened, but the Orioles did... But some of our predictions on how the trade deadline was going to pan out for certain teams worked out to perfection. Baltimore didn't make any big splashes. The Rangers went all in on Scherzer. Teams definitely bought, sold, and some teams bought, some teams sold, some teams held, which has worked out. And there are some tight races, and yet still the Red Sox would hold a 1-game lead in the AL Central over the Twins.
I have a question for you.
What's up?
So Jack Flaherty got traded to the Orioles, and his first start was good, and then his second start was absolutely terrible. How do you feel about him being an Oriole?
I think the playoff experience and kind of that mental set is probably why Baltimore did that. Not a huge splash. I mean, I'm a Red Sox fan, but I'm a pro Baltimore one. So really, if not us, Baltimore's the team that I would want to see get there. But I mean, it's going to happen. Bad starts are going to happen.
Yeah, I feel to me, it reminds me of when Cueto came to KC, so maybe something special happens with that. I mean, they have a thing going that's special right now with that team.
Yeah, because Bautista's been otherworldly. Tsunami's is a middle reliever that can throw hard. Really just a lot of different... And it's a youth movement that honestly, some of the best pitchers in the youth movement for the Orioles may still be in the farm system. And I think Brandon Hyde is kind of knowing what he's got there in the farm system that can come up here in the future and being okay, I can continue to work this up as these guys get better and better. I could see a Orioles deep run in the postseason happening within the next year or two.
Right.
But then the Women's World Cup. The U.S. women were eliminated by Sweden in PKs in the round of 16, and it will be Spain versus England in the final. And the Little League World Series is kind of kicked off. As well. And we're still in the early going of that. I will kind of keep things up with that for the baseball kids as it gets a little bit closer.
Also, with that, I saw that Panama had a 6-inning streak of a no-hitter, I thought, or going into the 6th from what I...
Yes, it was a combined... I think it looked like... Japan had a combined no-hitter, and there actually was a no-hitter in the Panama-Czech Republic game. So this is definitely quite fun.
All right, are we ready for our Eastwood?
Yeah, let's go to the Eastwood because we've still got some NFL to cut. We've still got NFL to hit. We haven't even hit any of that yet, and we're not even going to hit that until the very end.
All
so
right,
let's get right to it. The Eastwood segment: the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Wah, wah, wah. It picked up.
And my good this week kind of comes from the hardwood, as the enshrinements of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame happened over the past weekend, and international representation, and not only international representation, but San Antonio Spurs representation. But I will start with the international representation, as this was kind of the notable. Dirk Nowitzki, the first European most valuable player in the NBA. Tony Parker, the first European Finals MVP. And Pau Gasol, the first International Rookie of the Year. Parker and Gasol also were two of the 4 San Antonio Spurs affiliated, involving Greg Popovich and Becky Hammon, as also becoming members of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. So, those notable international representations, and 4 Spurs. So, the Popovich dynasty, all 3 members of that big run in the mid to late 2000s, and actually even spanning into the 2010s, all 3 of them, in Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili, or as Barkley would say, Ginobili, are in the Hall of Fame. And the bad.
All right, so from one Jose to another starts a brawl between Jose Ramirez and Tim Anderson after stealing second base. Jose did his best Rutan and Odor impression by punching Tim Anderson in the face.
Okay. There's some slight differences in the interpretation of this. Jose Ramirez punched Tim Anderson because of dirty tagging. Rutan Odor basically hated Jose Bautista for bat flipping.
Yep. I was just saying that Rutan and Odor attempted to punch Batista, whereas Jose Ramirez...
I think Runet's actually landed too. The only difference was that Jose Bautista, Joey Bats, ate his punch, and Tim Anderson got knocked on his backside.
Yeah, I think
wasn't quite to the point where all of a sudden Smokey from Friday is coming out, but
I think Tim Anderson needs to slow his roll. In general, like this isn't his first rodeo getting into it with the other players and causing trouble. So That's all I'm gonna say.
It really isn't kind of his first rodeo punking people either, so...
He's a bum.
So, is he a good player? Yes.
Maybe
But
if
is he a
you
good
talk
player
to
that you really... But is he a good player that you really want to have on your team? No, because I think there's a little too much ego with him.
I think
There's a
he's
little
also
bit-
just had a down year this year too, because like the past couple of years he's been decent, but this year he's just been off.
Yeah, but he's he's talented. Don't get me wrong. He has all the elements of what you kind of want in the position that he has. It's just there's something between the ears and emotionally that's just not quite right for really a championship team.
Yeah.
And then I also will have the downright ugly this week. And that is going to be the situation of Michael Orr versus Tuies. This deep south thing involves events relating to, of course, the famous film The Blind Side. Conservatorship versus adoption, guardianship, whatever is needed to be called at that point. There's shakedown efforts, including a $15 million threat from Orr. There's a whole 9 yards involved with this that makes this messy. Messy enough that some sort of documentary is probably going to come. I said to consider a 30 for 30 when all is said and done. Just simply, what is really the truth in all this? And I think only over time are we going to find out answers. But this situation is messy enough that all of a sudden, while we were initially getting our popcorn ready and watching the film, we now are sitting here with that same bag of pop, or maybe not the same bag of popcorn, but a bag of popcorn about 15 years later, because this thing is it is a hot southern mess.
And it's a little bit of an old miss.
No, but I was going with that, like a hot, deep southern mess, like no pun intended on that.
Yeah.
Because this all was basically, all of this is going on in SEC territory.
Yeah.
But now that we've kind of started a little bit of football, we now will get into the high heat of the NFL preview. So kind of a little bit, we're kind of this part of it is going to be, intro. So we are looking at some couple of basic things that are kind of surfacing throughout the whole entire NFL. We are not predicting anything with the Super Bowl at the moment. That may come kind of on the tail. That it may either come in on the tail end. I don't think we'll really do before week 1 Super Bowl prediction type ordeal. But we're just gonna kind of pick up a little bit of where we left off and such. So recapping some major offseason things that happened. Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets. Sean Payton becomes the Broncos head coach. Jimmy G goes to the Raiders. A new era begins in DC for the Commanders. And the franchise running backs all get together on a Zoom call.
Isn't John Stamos on the Raiders too? that pause just says it all. That I see the dirty look coming through the Discord call, and then like the slap coming.
Why did you have to bring up Stamos? Like, we've gone through this enough episodes to know that Jimmy G he may look like Stamos, but he's not Stamos.
All right. So Rookies
So,
to watch for.
All right, I will let you go. I'll let you kind of roll with the offense, and I'll take the defensive side of the ball.
All right, so rookies to watch for offense. I have Bryce Young from Carolina, C.J. Stroud from the Houston Texans, Anthony Richardson of the Colts,
Who just, by the way, has been announced as the Week 1 starter.
Yeah, I saw that. And then Jackson Smith and
Jigba.
Of the Seattle Seahawks, Bijan Robinson, the running back from the Atlanta Falcons, Jahmyr Gibbs, a running back from the Detroit Lions, Jordan Addison, the 140-mile-an-hour madman from Minnesota for the Vikings, and then Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Buffalo.
I am going to be very, very intrigued as to what Buffalo and Josh Allen are going to do involving Kincaid, because we know that Baltimore has one tight end who can already do a good bit of receiving the ball well. Now you've got two of them. You've got Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. My real question is
Baltimore?
No, I said Buffalo.
Okay.
I said now you've got Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
So it was Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. So it's just, how much of this are we going to really see with Buffalo being able to still effectively pass well from two tight end sets? Because most of the time you generally have 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end. Now Buffalo can do stuff with less receivers on the table, but also possibly going into big sets. Or being even more effective from the goal line in having 2 of your tight ends that can catch passes being in there, and having that third tight end that can reserve as a blocker.
I mean, the Chiefs have some good company with that too, since they have about 4 or 5, which now Jody Fortson is out for the rest of the season. But my point with that was Sean McDermott was part of Andy Reid's system, and he could probably take a couple pointers from Andy Reid, as they would have more tight end space to figure out what plays they want to do and what protections they want to do with the tight ends they have.
Sorry, your number 1 tight end's a wide receiver on steroids.
I mean, Kincaid seems like a good one.
No. Not actual steroids. Just basically a bulky number 1 wide receiver, Travis Kelce.
Burrowhead my ass.
All right. Now we get to the defensive side of the ball where we have, I mean, Christian Gonzalez from New England was on the draft boards, was everybody's best corner.
Wasn't he also wanting to be drafted like earlier in the draft, but ended up going later, in the 20th pick or something like that?
I think it was like a 17th pick, because he was picked right after the Washington pick of Emmanuel Forbes. Washington went with 2 secondary players in their first 2 rounds, so that's going to be interesting to see how Quan Martin also... I didn't put Quan Martin down, but Forbes was definitely the big one that stuck out there. Also on the corner side of Joey Porter Jr., and I did not put his team in there because it's Joey Porter. Where do you think he went? Pittsburgh. And then on the down line in the trenches, you have Will Anderson for Houston and Jalen Carter of the Eagles And Jalen Carter looks scary quick. I mean, when you pair him with Fletcher Cox in the middle, and along with the rushers on the edge that they already have, Philadelphia as a defensive line is pretty scary. Not quite maybe to what the Commanders' potential is, because you have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, John Ridgeway, Jonathan Payne. I think that Philly has a great front four. And Washington, I think, is going to be experimenting a little more with 5 down line. So this gets interesting.
Yeah.
And actually, even Fedarian Mathis as a D tackle as well, especially if we can keep him healthy, is a big piece as well. And to kind of conclude the introduction to the football season that we're going to have, we have breakout players by division. We're kind of predicting here which players are going to break out for a particular division. Some of them we have big agreement on. Others not so much. And we will start with the AFC North, where Ruckus and I were both in consensus on saying that the breakout player for the AFC North that we feel is going to be the case, or we're going to have our eye on, is
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the AFC South, this is where Ruckus and I had a little bit of disagreement, but we also picked players from 2 different sides of the ball.
I picked Anthony Richardson from the Indianapolis Colts.
So you took the rookie. He took the rookie quarterback out of Indianapolis. I went with the sophomore corner Derek Stingley out of Houston. I mean, it's obvious that Will Anderson's going to have something, but I think that in this D'Amico Ryan system, I think the corners are going to be able to find the way to get maybe a few more interceptions than they did a year ago. And Derek Stingley, as a top corner from last year's draft, takes a little bit for corners to kind of come into their own. I think Stingley makes a little bit of noise here.
Isn't D'Amico Ryan a former defensive coordinator?
Yes, D'Amico Ryans was the defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers.
Hopefully doesn't pull he doesn't pull what the old Denver Broncos coach was doing.
Oh, which one are you speaking on with that? Not Mike.
Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, don't forget what happened to the last defensive coordinator that became a head coach from the 49ers system. Took him a year to kind of get going. But Robert Saleh has now got that Jets program.
That's true.
So the upside is kind of high. Or the potential is there for D'Amico Ryans. In the AFC East,
I have McCole Hardman from the New York Jets, wide receiver, former Kansas City Chief.
I personally think that McCole Hardman is probably going to be a little bit lower on the depth chart for the Jets. I think he's probably going to be relegated to return duty. But I went with a bigger breakout that you caught a little bit of him last year, but I think you probably could see even more this year. I took Ramondre Stevenson, the New England Patriots. Because my goal with this was not so much to take rookies, because rookies be rookies. But then I'm like, okay, why don't I grab like some sophomores that maybe didn't quite have great rookie years, but another year learned, they get themselves in better position. And last but not least, Ruckus's division of the AFC West.
All right, Broncos country, let's ride. Just kidding.
We know you weren't gonna pick a Bronco. You weren't gonna pick a Bronco.
But what I would pick is a wide receiver out of the Kansas City Chiefs, and his name is Justin Ross out of Clemson, the rookie. I mean, technically, he sat out last year with a knee injury and was on the PUP list for the rest of the season. And now this is his year to shine and show what he is capable of. And so far, he's done decent. But he is kind of on that injury bug every once in a while. So we'll see what happens. But I think he'll break out and get through it just fine.
I had the breakout for the Chargers being one of two wide receiver fours, or at least the wide receiver fours on the current depth chart. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams do have a history of having some health bug. Quentin Johnston's a rookie, so we have no idea how he's going to kind of play into this. But I was between either Josh Palmer or Jalen Guyton out of the Chargers. And I decided to take Josh Palmer because he's a little bit younger and has a little bit more time. But I think that his hands will be just enough to kind of break away passing Jalen Guyton. And now we go to my conference, the NFC. The NFC North. Or the NFC North, as Chris Berman likes to call it. And we went with two different players on the offensive side.
I went back, and went with Justin Fields.
I went with the player that kind of found his way a bit last year as a backup, and now is going to get the big dog carries and start to eat a little bit more. And I feel that he will be able to make the most of it. And that is Alexander Mattison of Minnesota. The NFC South. We both kind of made some interesting takes here.
I'm just going to say it now. Baker Mayfield, Boomer Sooner. I think he breaks out with the Buccaneers.
I would be hoping that my pick, unlike his father, does not bring a cell phone out of underneath the padding of the goal post from the end zone, like his father Joe. I took J.C. Horn of the Carolina Panthers as I think a big breakout. I think that defense is going to be tested a lot, as Carolina's not good. And I think if J.C. Horn wants to really prove himself as a top corner, I think he's got to break out this year. The NFC East.
I think there's a new kid in town, and that is Deuce Vaughn of the Dallas Cowboys. I think he's going to amaze a lot of people with his sheer speed and sheer size. That is not much, but it's enough to where he could slip through the cracks if need be. Deuce Vaughn.
This is my division, and I took one from my own team of Left Hand Up, as I am taking the second-year man from Penn State, and I think that he is going to have a huge year, especially with having Sam Howell there. I mean, you're obviously going to have Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel deal with bits of the ball, but I think the Eric Bieniemy offense is going to benefit Jahan Dotson the most, as his route run. That there was a route that he ran in that Cleveland preseason game. Sheesh. It was filthy enough to make the Browns corner just bite. And the separation that Dotson had to be able to make the catch and then get the tutty. Jahan Dotson's upside, there's a reason why Ron Rivera drafted him. And I think that we are going to see we saw great glimpses of it minus the injuries last year. I think we're going to see even more of that now. The other players I would have considered for that spot would have obviously been Cole Turner. Cole Turner having a lot of potential there at tight end. Last year, I think I would have highly considered a lot more Benjamin St. Juste, as he did. So there's a lot of good options. And then in the FC West, we took a couple of different Seattle players.
I took Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver for the Seahawks.
The NFC West was a little harder for me. Because I'm like, oh, do I go with somebody who we obviously know is going to do something? I mean, Kenneth Walker, alright, he broke out as a rookie. He kind of broke out immediately as a rookie. I went with Devin Bush because he was decent in Pittsburgh, but I think that being able to learn from Bobby Wagner is going to put a lot into Devin Bush's bag of tricks that I think he will become even better than where he was when he was in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to go with Devin Bush as kind of that I think he jumps from a serviceable middle inside linebacker to, if he has a great year, could very well be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate if he balls out and gets a lot of things. And then the color commentary, where our segment for this becomes, who would we rather have? Out of these 4 quarterback to wide receiver combos, Jordan Love and Christian Watson, Sam Howell and Terry McLaurin, Kenny Pickett and George Pickens, or Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I'm going to have to go with the Pickett-Pickens combo, just because I've seen the potential that Pickett has with George Pickens as far as the looks that Pickens gets from the throws that Pickett sends him, and they look pretty damn good together.
Out of these 4, there is only one that I am not in favor of, or that I just don't like it as much, and that is the Jordan Love Christian Watson connection.
Yeah, they still need time to develop that bond.
Yep. But I'm gonna say that last year, week 18, the very first pass that Sam Howell threw was a touchdown strike to one Terry McLaurin. It's a new offensive coordinator, a new day, a new era in DC, better stuff from the offense coming along. I would love to say Howell and McLaurin, but I think I know where my real answer is. And I gotta go with Jared Goff and Amon-Ra Brown. Because they are, as a QB and wide receiver combination, last year, I think showed kind of great flashes at times of how much these two can do to pick any defense they want apart. So, although I would love to have Howell and McLaurin, I would rather have Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. What middle infield combo would you rather have? The Baltimore Orioles with Adam Frazier and Jorge Mateo. The Massey Bobby Witt Jr. combination of the Kansas City Royals. The Braves combination of Arcia and Ozzie Albies. or the Cubs one of Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson?
I'm gonna have to go with my hometown pick of Michael Massey and Bobby Witt Jr. just strictly because Massey has the power and also the defense to back up, and also the Massey Witt Jr. duo has just been a big one since Nicky Lopez had been traded to the Braves.
Now, if this question were asked to me a year ago, Ozzie Albies and Dansby Swanson would have been on the same double play combination. Same middle infield combo. Albies and Arcia, although Arcia has had a great year, I think that Dansby Swanson lost less in terms of overall play in going from Nico Horner from Ozzie Albies. So I'm actually going to take the Cubs pair of Horner and Swanson. Frazier and Mateo are not bad, but I think that kind of gets a little better whenever you bring like Gunnar Henderson. I think a Gunnar Henderson combination is going to be even better in Baltimore years down the line. A coaching staff you would rather have: the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Patriots, or the Bills?
I'm gonna sound biased on this, and I'm gonna say the Chiefs because I feel like they're more disciplined with their coaching staff compared to others. And if this was probably 10 years ago, I probably would have picked the Patriots instead because they had discipline as well, but they had some good coaches. They had Matt Patricia as I believe he was the defensive coordinator, because didn't you have McDaniels as the
Yeah, it was
offensive
McDaniels
coordinator?
on offense and Patricia on defense. Yep.
And then you had Bill Belichick as your head coach, and that was like the dynamic trio right there of coaches until they all branched out. And that was at the time the team that everyone hated and despised, and those coaches were like the mastermind of that huge core. But if you think of it now, it seems like the Chiefs have the big advantage because, yes, they just got rid of Bieniemy. He went to the Commanders, but you still have Andy Reid. You've got Matt Nagy after he was kicked out of the Bears organization and did a year as a quarterback coach. You now have him as the offensive coordinator. You have your defensive coordinator still and Steve Spagnuolo, and you still have some of the core there. So I would say the Chiefs currently for the current day.
Now, if I would have told you ownership, if this question would have been ownership, I probably would have told you the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because job security. The Rooneys don't turn over coaches. But since the question is coaching staff, I actually am in agreement with you here, Ruckus. I would take the Chiefs.
Well, if we were talking GMs too, I would say the Chiefs as well, because Veach, I feel like out of all of the GMs we've had in the past, whether it was Glenn Dorsey or someone else, I feel like Veach was like the most smartest, luckiest man that has become the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs since Dorsey. Because here's the thing.
Look to say Howie Rose. I would also look to say Howie Roseman. I'd actually make a claim against the Chiefs here, not because Veach is bad, but I think that another one that has kind of done effectively with this has actually been Howie Roseman of the Eagles.
That's for sure. And the only
So
reason I say
probably
Veach is mainly because he hasn't really made so far like a bad signing as far as like extensions and whatnot. Because there are players that ask for more money, and he just said straight up no, and then stuck with his guns, and also has the trust in his staff as well.
yeah, but the Patriots, as far as a front office, do a great job of being able to let go of a player too early than a late. The Patriot way lasted a long time, but
Oh
I
yeah,
think
that's
for
for sure.
me, the front office I would go with is I'd probably say the Eagles because Roseman knows how to land the big move when he needs to.
Yeah.
And now we go to the next one of a pair of aces. And this is a baseball one again. The 2019 Nationals with Scherzer and Strasburg. The 2004 Red Sox with Pedro Martinez and Kurt Schilling. The 2014 San Francisco Giants with Madison Bumgarner and Tim Lincecum. Or the 2003 Florida Marlins with Josh Beckett and Dontrelle Willis.
I'm going automatically to the Martinez Schilling because of the bloody sock game with Schilling, and then Martinez, just prime Martinez in a Red Sox uniform. You can't go wrong with that.
Although I think 2004 was where the downside of Martinez's career was. I would probably then go with and Schilling was kind of 3 years after pairing with another incredible ace that we did not put here in Randy Johnson. But also 2014 was also the downside of a Tim Lincecum, but a rise in the greatness of Madison Bumgarner.
Boo. Boo.
Bumgarner's a lefty. There are only 2 lefty pitchers in this whole combination that we have, and that is Dontrelle Willis and Madison Bumgarner.
Wasn't Tim Lincecum a lefty?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Tim Lincecum the freak was right-handed. The freak was under 6 feet tall, but he was right-handed. But I gotta go with the ace pair that reversed the curse. Pedro Martinez and Kurt Schilling. And now we go into our closing segment of Stud and Dud of the Week. Ruckus,
Right.
I'll let you go ahead and get started with your pair of Royals for studs.
All right, so my stud for this week is Bobby Witt Jr.'s grand slam last night, and just the hot streak he has been on in his last 15 games. In 63 at bats, he has acquired 13 runs, 26 hits, 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, 5 bat on balls, 9 strikeouts, 5 stolen bases, and a batting average of 413. In his last 30, to put it in perspective, he has been batting 349. And then his slugging is almost at 800. That is redonkulous. The man is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs as we speak. God damn it, Bobby.
So it looks like Bobby's been having a great August, and I wouldn't be surprised that if he continues that out through the back end of August, that even though we are in great disdain of what MLB The Show has done, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Player of the Year or Player of the Month card come out for Witt. I do not believe that he would be a Lightning player, but I think a Player of the Month would be warranted if the opportunity called for itself to.
Yep, and maybe I would decide to actually play the game. um, but anyways, an honorable mention for my stud is Michael Garcia with a 17-game hitting streak, which breaks a Royals record for third baseman that originally had Mike Moustakas as at the top of that record for the Royals, as he had 15 on his hit streak. Do you want me to finish with the dud?
I think we'll get to the duds here in a second. I am going to go right into my honorable mention for mine being Inter Miami's transfer player from earlier this year in Lionel Messi, further cementing why he is the best player in the world. He has scored 9 goals in 6 straight games in the League's Cup competition, as Inter Miami is now in the finals of that tournament. Messi has just been on a tear ever since he's come in and debuted, which is to no surprise, but it's not like... But he also took probably a significant amount less to come over here stateside. I mean, Messi still ended up with good money coming into the stateside, but when the Saudis are offering Kylian Mbappe almost $1 billion to come over and play, the money there is apparently getting super ridiculous from all the oil. And that as a whole, I think Inter Miami, the MLS was definitely a great stop for Messi as a whole. But my real stud this week goes to Damar Hamlin, as he returned to the field for the first time since his major cardiac injury against the Bengals last year, and helping to make a stop on a 4th and 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. I think that pretty much about 7 months, or what was it, about 7-8 months after that major event happened,
Something like
that, and you're back out on the football field, being able to play the game that you loved. Like, it gives him a new lease on life and a whole lot more to be thankful for in playing football at the highest level. So I think that kind of... And it also shows really the work of just the power of the miracle of being able to have the God-given ability of the physicians and training staffs involved from every aspect of dealing with the injury. From being to make sure that he's okay, getting him to the hospital, and all the other moving parts, and figuring out what was wrong, getting the answers, and then rehabbing him and keeping him healthy. And to have all this and come back in 7-8 months time. The only thing I could really say is that was a move of God and an act on it to be able to provide such a miracle. And then we get to the duds, and I'll let you go ahead and start.
All right. So, I don't know if you Chiefs fans will recognize this name, but Florida man Bashad Breeland is facing charges for a stolen car and firearms possession, including 2 AK-47s, 2 AR-15s, and 5.5 pounds of weed and some shrooms. He was later released after posting a $30,000 bond on bail.
That's just ridiculous, and I'm shocked that you would go Florida man with that, because I know that that's crazy enough to have a Florida man type following.
I mean, he was arrested in Florida, so I mean,
Yeah. That may also have something to do with it.
I just thought it was crazy that he had 2 AKs and 2 AR-15s, let alone the weed. But, I mean, I think he did at one point when he was a chief get pulled over with possession of marijuana at one point. So it doesn't surprise me with that. Alright, Spanish, what do you got for dud?
Yep. My dud goes to the Beard himself, James Harden, for kind of his buyer's remorse, as he had taken an option, probably no more than about a month ago, like taking a player option with the Philadelphia 76ers. But he wants out of Philly. Demanded a trade, and then due to, I don't know if there was something with pizza on Fridays that was also involved, which kind of makes this petty in and of itself. He basically called Daryl Morey a liar. And leaving him but he's kind of left himself in a position where James Harden, you've kind of made your bed here in Philly at this point. Because the price point for you being traded out of there is probably too much for any team to really ask. I wouldn't be surprised if you decided to all of a sudden put yourself in a no-trade clause, so you're going to all of a sudden have control of where you go, but yet at the same time, you're probably not going to go anywhere because you're only going to go to a place where you think you can win a championship, but your style of basketball does not breed championships, nor has it ever had an opportunity to create itself a championship. And then all the while on top of that, blah, blah, you decide to put a shot at the GM to try and get your way. No. That generally is not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, especially...
And let alone, normally Daryl Morey's a pretty good GM. But at the same time, like, if you're... It now puts your own GM, your team's GM's credibility into question. So you're more so providing yourself a sense of self-sabotage. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was also self-sabotage going on with David Portland, that I don't think he'll get himself out of there either, as he's kind of claiming that the only destination that he'll accept is to go to Miami. So, unfortunately, I think both Harden and Dame are in positions where you guys have made your bed, now you gotta lie in it. You're stuck. You're stuck until something says otherwise. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. And speaking of things kind of crumbling at this point, I think we're down to the last bits of the show. Take us out, Ruckus.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus and The Menace.
We'll catch you next time, hopefully on Tuesday. We'll see. Anyways, we'll see y'all later.
Deuces.